Another video on using alternate fats in cakes. So, I've done this a couple of times. Actually, I've done it 3 times. We'll talk about that. The first time I used chicken fat as an alternative to butter. It was very nice, a little bit greasy. And then we made them again and we did a comparison. We did a whole butter cake, a whole cake made with just lard, and then we did a mixture of butter and lard. They all turned out very nice. I don't think you'd really tell the difference with the lard. If you'd smothered it with cream and jam or butter icing, I don't think you'd really kind of tell the difference. So you could actually like bulk out the amount of butter if you didn't like using cheap vegetable fats in your baking, which I don't. Certainly not for home use anyway. Sometimes needs must with budgets and things like that. So you can use substitute fat, and then obviously if you've got I had my own made rendered down chicken fat, which is very nice. I've got some homemade lard as well, which is very nice. But I'm just using cheap supermarket lard. So the one thing I did think about was that I cut down the amount of fat because butter isn't a solid fat. It's 80% fat and 20% whey, whereas lard is 100% fat, 100% like a solid fat. I cut down the amount of fat that I added to the cake last time to compensate for the lack of whey in the lard, and to cut down on the greasiness which I found with the first batch of cakes that I did. However, I did notice that the butter, the cakes rose in kind of in a succession. So the lard cake didn't rise as much as the lard and butter cake, and the butter cake rised the most. So I kind of thought, well, maybe that's down to the amount of liquid that's in the butter, the 20% worth of whey. So I've done the experiment again. It's a 5-egg mix, so that's pretty easy to work out. So if it's 5 eggs, I've used well, divide by 2, it's going to be pretty easy. But I've compensated by putting in the 20% worth of water in this one, and just left that at the normal 8 ounces of, this is getting complicated, isn't it? The 8 ounces of fat rather than the 10 ounces of fat. So we've compensated with this one with putting some more water in for the whey that's in the butter, which we're not using butter, we're using a lard. So hopefully that's kind of makes sense, and hopefully this one will rise more because it's got more liquid in. So what happens with cakes is the steam from the inside, so it's the moisture in them that makes them rise, as well as the raising products and the egg. Whew, that was a long way around. So, oh yeah, and the other time that I used fat, I was making some Christmas cakes the other week, and I just didn't have quite enough butter. So I put in some Christmas cakes are in rich fruit cakes. So I put in some chicken fat to kind of bulk out the butter, and it was lovely. So I've actually done this 3 times. So, and if people are talking about, well, it's ridiculous using lard in things, my argument always like it's beef suet that you use in treacle sponge, and jam, and like a jam roly-poly, and then there's lardy cakes, and then there's mincemeat that go in mince pies. They're all got animal-based fats in them. Butter is an animal-based fat, but actually from the animal itself, lard dripping, in my case, chicken fat. So, and then I forgot to add the video that I made yesterday, which I don't know when that'll come out. That I turned the oven on when I put the cakes in. So normally recipes say preheat the oven. I didn't, and the cakes turned out fine. So from now on, I'm not going to be, when I'm baking cakes at home in a fan-assisted oven, I may add, I'm not going to preheat the oven beforehand. I'm going to cut down on the power that way. I'm going to put the cakes in and then turn the oven on. So there we go. We'll see how they turn out. All ready? Let's have a look. Squeaky oven door. I one day will fix it. So that's the lard with no extra water in it, and that's the lard with a bit of extra water in it. So move it off, save on power. So there we go. There we go. That's risen more, hasn't it? So the whey in the butter helps it helps it rise. So if you are going to use a different type of fat than butter, so chicken fat, no one's going to have any chicken fat, it's just me that's got that type of thing. Chicken fat, lard, beef dripping. I don't think lamb fat would work. It's kind of it's stronger flavour, this lamb fat. So, but like lard and beef dripping, chicken fat, if you're going to use them, you just need to compensate for the whey that's in the butter. So there we go. We'll wait until they're cool and then we'll have a look at them. But obviously that one's going to be a nicer cake because it's going to be lighter and fluffier. And then could just kind of see about any potential greasiness in it as well. So, but that's kind of quite interesting. And I think a nicer tasting fat, like a homemade lard or a homemade chicken fat, would certainly improve a cake. There we go. That's interesting, isn't it? But we'll cut into them in a bit when they've cooled, and we'll have a taste, and we'll kind of see what it tastes like. Right, let's have a look. And just in time for afternoon tea. So I think as long as we cut it in the same place, so let's cut it in the middle. I'm going to do something else with it. I think I'm going to dry it out and make sponge fingers rather than eat it, I think. And it'd be nice and trifle. So that's that, with the extra water in it. Water or milk would have been fine, I would have thought. Or if you actually had some whey. Can't imagine people would have whey. But there you go. That's the difference, isn't it? So, I don't know. Will the camera pick it up? But just here, it's a little bit more dense, and it looks like it's like the fat has kind of collected there. Whereas that has, can we see? Can we get close enough? It's just a bit denser there, isn't it? Just a bit denser. So, and it looks, I can see it. Although I start to need glasses. It just looks a little bit denser and a little bit fattier there. But that is lovely. That is lovely. I don't know how we're focusing. That's a proper cake, isn't it? So, let's have a taste. No, I don't want a full bit of cake. So we'll go for the end. It's nice and crispy. No, the butter didn't do that, did it? So the video that we did before this, the butter didn't crisp up and go crunchy on top. So that's kind of quite interesting, isn't it? Don't ask me why. I don't know. I don't know that one. But cake's gone crispy on top with the use of lard, whereas it didn't do with butter. And even though the one that we put extra water in has gone crispy, so don't know. So let's taste. We'll taste that one. Nice. Because I know what I'm looking for, I can taste the lard. You know, but I still don't necessarily know. If you just gave it to someone, they won't know. I told my mum's neighbour what I was doing. She was always curious, and I told her what I was doing with the cake, and she was just horrified that I'd make a cake out of lard or chicken fat, even though she's a big fan of jam roly-poly and what we call it, and mince pies and all those type of things. So sometimes with people, it's just the conceived idea that the idea that they're not going to like it puts them off. But so that's kind of quite interesting. That one tastes less of lard than that one. So, hands are a bit greasy. But they all know the cake anyway, aren't they? So, summing up, we can use animal fats in cake. We can bulk out cake with, we can bulk out butter when we're making cakes with a bit of animal fat if we're wanting to cut the cost of the cake down. We just need to compensate for, we can't add 100% lard to a cake. We've got to add 4/5 lard to the normal amount of butter that we would use, and then we've got to put in 1/5 worth of liquid to compensate for the whey that's naturally present in the butter. Now, my next thoughts are, can we make a savoury cake? Which is something I've been thinking about for quite a while. Can we make a savoury cake? So, can we make a cake without any sugar in, that's still the consistency of cake, it tastes as nice as cake, but doesn't have that sugar in? That's something I'm thinking about. Now, I was thinking about cornbread, but I always think it's horrible. I'm sorry, people who like cornbread, I think it's horrible. I think it's just bland, boring. But there's got to be something you can do to make a savoury cake which isn't cornbread. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, yeah, so not bread, not cake, but not somewhere kind of in between. Okay, that's kind of quite interesting, isn't it? So, could we make a brioche with lard? Yes. Has brioche got sugar in it? I think a little bit. So could we make an enriched dough? That's kind of quite interesting, isn't it? That's another thought. That's another thought. An experiment for another day. Okay, maybe I need to look at Savarin batters and doughs. This is just me thinking out loud, isn't it? Yeah. So, that's kind of quite interesting. But this works. Success. I don't know what practical applications it has, but if I've got a question, I always like to know the answer. And not many people can answer the questions that I want to know the answers to. Anyway, there we go. Success. Give it a go, don't give it a go. Have a think about it, but there we go. A success.